Hello and welcome back to the Odds Now YouTube channel for your weekly EFL betting rundown with me, Matt Hill, and my regular co-host, Gab Sutton, who is in the house. We're here once again. If you're watching the EFL Betting Show for the first time, please do make sure you give us a thumb up and please do press that subscribe button. We really do appreciate it. But here on the EFL Betting Show, it's pretty simple, really. Myself and Gab will take 3 picks each from the upcoming slate of weekend action and make our cases and see who can find the most winners. And in an ideal world, we'll just have winners falling out of all angles. But it wasn't quite that way last week. We had a couple of winners. They were both on my side, actually, for a change, because Gab has certainly been the man in form prior to last week. But yeah, tough going last week, Gab. You were a little bit unlucky at points. I'm just trying to remember exactly what your picks were. I know you had that Luton game that finished 1-1. I think you backed Sheffield Wednesday to come out on top there.
Yeah.
In terms of the winners, I had a bit of good fortune as well, must be said. Wrexham and over 2.5 goals against. He needed a last-minute winner from Elliot Lee. That was a good 2-1 winner. And there was also an even money chance in there as well, which the name escapes me at the minute. But I will dig them out while Gabby's talking us through his first pick. But yes, as I say, 3 picks each this week. We'll be hoping to get back on the winning trail. And in our first game, Gab, we've both gone for the same fixture. We've gone for slightly different angles.
Yeah.
And there is a scoreline which could, just the one scoreline, which could make us both correct. But there's a very good likelihood we're not going to be both correct. So let's see who is on a better course of judgment here. Tell me why you've picked Norwich to beat Derby and over 2.5 goals in the game.
Well, I think there are 2 score lines that could get us both in, but we'll come to that one later. But yeah, for me, the reason why I've gone with Norwich, I think Norwich City to beat Derby, I think it's pretty self-explanatory. Very worried about Derby since around November. They seem to have fallen off a cliff because they did have a very solid first 3 or 4 months of the season, didn't they? But they sold Iron Cash in. I think Matt Clark's a decent replacement, but I'm kind of worried about Derby because on the one hand, you feel like you can get at them defensively. And on the other hand, I'm not seeing them create clear-cut chances because they're not very intentional in the final third. A lot of it's kind of set pieces, whipping the ball into the box and balls flying across the face of the box, which you could kind of class those as chances and maybe the fine margins. But also, on the other hand, you're relying on a lot of luck as well. And I'm not sure that Derby... I'm not sure Derby are very intentional in the final third.
Gab, you'll know more on this than me, but obviously I know you do your EFL podcast, so you talk to a range of fans, but it feels a little bit like from the outside that the mood has shifted on Paul Warne. I think I'm starting to worry for him with his job a little bit. I think I've seen a lot of negativity about the window, about Warne. Obviously results aren't good. It does feel like it's teetering on crisis.
Yeah, Matt, spot on. I absolutely love Paul Warne as a person.
I do as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think football's far better with him in it than without him. I think he's a trailblazer for vulnerability and empathy and modern leadership. And as a culture setter, he's one of the best that I've seen because of the way that he brings people together. And I
don't want to go off piece here, Gab, but I did a bit of work with Mike Holden, who I know you know. Mike, who does personality profiling, and Mike told me that I have the same personality profile as Paul Warne, so maybe that's why I like Paul Warne.
Oh, lovely. So he's brilliant at the sort of culture setting side, and I think that's why he's been profoundly successful in League One, winning 4 promotions from that level. However, the gap in tactics, in sort of tactical know-how, if you like, from League One to the Championship, I think is enormous because in the Championship, you're coming up against coaches like Danny Röhl or Ruben Selles, who have had like 20 years to perfect, to hone their coaching craft and have a really sort of complete methodology, if you like, or coming up against managers like Gary Rowett, who have just done it year in, year out at Championship level. And I don't think Paul Warne has a record that stacks up to that, even with squads that haven't been great at Championship level. So I don't know if David Klaus, the Derby owner, is doing the right thing in standing with Paul Warne. On the flip side of that, I think when it comes to Norwich City, I really like the work Johannes Hoffthorpe is doing, and especially Josh Sargent, because for me, he's the most complete centre forward in the Championship. He will grab a few goals. He's not super prolific, but he's got bags of energy. He's extremely selfless. His link-up play is excellent, and he seems to make everyone around him better. So,
and do you know what, Josh Sargent as well? Like, it's so nice to see, because I do think when he first came to England, he became a bit of a figure of ridicule amongst the Premier League kind of viewership, because he
yeah,
came in, he missed a lot of chances. And it was just, I don't know if it's because he's American, but there just seemed to be this narrative around him of like, who is this guy? He's way out of his depth and stuff. And he's had to go away and really work on himself, reinvent himself, settle into English football. I totally agree with you. I think he's a fantastic forward at this level now.
yeah, certainly is. And the other thing is, I think it's just as simple as when Josh Sargent is available, Norwich City are comfortably a top six side. And I think the records prove that both last season and this season under Thorup, who's a coach I rate extremely highly. When he doesn't play, they're probably a mid-table side. So he does make that big a difference. And just one final point on Norwich, their home goal scoring record is on a par with anyone in the league. So, yeah, Norwich City with a home goal scoring form, I'm backing them at Carrow Road, and I think there's going to be goals.
Okay, well, for reasons, as you will see in a second, I don't have to add too much to Gab in terms of why I think Norwich will get the better of Derby. I definitely agree with that. And as I say, I worry a little bit for Paul Warne at Derby. It seems to have turned against him here. I'm playing this game slightly differently, but with a similar angle. I'm going to go on under 3.5. And I see what you're saying, Gab. Not only have we got the 3-0, we've got the 2-1 as well, haven't we? Which could work in our favour. So there's 2 outs here for us both to make a winning start to this week's show. Hopefully, we could land one of them. The reason I lean more towards the unders, and I totally take what you're saying about Norwich's home goal scoring record, and it is pretty fearsome, it should be said. But in their last 4 games, the last 8 games, sorry, the only one that they've managed to really run away with and smash a team was Swansea. Now, Swansea, to their credit, they're in a similar spot to Derby, aren't they? Really going through the ringer at the moment. And you would worry about them. But I do have a little bit of a niggling feeling. Looking at Derby's scores as well, they've been losing, but they haven't been getting battered. They haven't really conceded more than 2 goals in any of these games. In their last, going back 10 games in all competitions, they still haven't conceded more than 2 goals, only once in a 4-2 loss to Sheffield Wednesday. So that was more why I lean that way. I could see Norwich winning. I could see them doing it with a degree of comfort, but they haven't been leaking goals left, right and centre. It is kind of the way I was reading it. You make quite a compelling case as well. Ideally, we'll just get one of our combined outs hit, and we'll both get off to a winning start. But I think if we were taking this all back and stripping this back, it's really hard to see anything but a Norwich win here, isn't it, Gab?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm going to hand it back to you for your second selection then. And you've dipped into League One, I believe, for your next selection. Shrewsbury are undergoing a real renaissance under Gareth Ainsworth, something that you predicted would occur. A manager I know you've got a lot of time for. They got a great result again last time out. And they really do look a different team from where they were a couple of months ago. Huge credit to Gareth Ainsworth here. They go to Rotherham. You want to be with them on the double chance, is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. I think if you look at the turnaround in Shrewsbury Town's form since Gareth Ainsworth took charge, I believe I'm right in saying that I think it's something like 12 points from the 10 games that he's taken charge, as opposed to a much vastly inferior record. So they're just over 1 point a game under Gareth Ainsworth, whereas beforehand I think it was something more like 0.5 points per game before Ainsworth took charge. So that just shows what a difference he's made in terms of the togetherness, the morale at the club and in the dressing room. And while it hasn't been a meteoric rise, because there's still 7 points adrift of safety, even with Gareth Ainsworth's brilliant impact, the fact that they've beaten Birmingham in this first game in charge are, runaway leaders. The fact that they've beaten Wrexham in the sort of local derby a few weeks ago, the fact that they beat Mansfield having been a goal down and with 10 men, you never bet against the Gareth Ainsworth team because they always have that fight in them. Then you never quite know when they're beaten.
And even in the defeats as well, Gab, I would say as well, even in the defeats, look at the recent defeats: 1-0 at Charlton, 1-0 at Stockport, 1-0 at there was another promotion contending team at Orient as well.
Yeah.
They're just going down with a fight in every game, aren't they? And that's kind of what you would expect from Ainsworth. As you said, fine margins. They don't know when they're beaten. They just find ways to win. I could totally see why you would want to be with them here against a Rotherham side who've just been Jekyll and Hyde, haven't they, in the last few weeks?
Yeah, they certainly have. And just one more thing on Shrewsbury before moving on to Rotherham. Literally, I don't watch Shrewsbury Town every week, but I do listen to Gareth Ainsworth's interview every week. And even when they've lost, I always, after those 5 minutes, I always feel more optimistic about his team just because of that's the sort of the influence and how he inspires people. And so, yeah, I look at, and if you look at, Shrewsbury have been under Ainsworth, and I think we have to take that as a different kettle of fish and separate it off from their form before him. They're kind of, around 18th or 19th in the form table, I think, under Ainsworth. Rotherham this season, they're about 14th. So actually, should we really be taking these teams as like miles apart, where I think Shrewsbury were, 15-4 to win this game and Rotherham were heavily odds on? I'm just not really buying it. Like, I get that Rotherham have a better squad on paper, and when they turn on the style, they can be strong. But to think that, if there's 3 possible outcomes in the game and 2 of them, we just need 2 of them to happen for this bet to come on, and it's odds against quotes at 5-4. I don't think there's enough of a gap between these teams to really justify going with Rotherham. And actually, I think there's probably going to be more value with Shrewsbury.
Yeah, and odds against, like you said, 5-4 with the draw on side as well. I definitely see the case for that. My next bet as well is a very similar price, actually, 6-5, and I'm staying in League One as well for a game between 2 sides I've been very impressed with in recent weeks, to be honest. And I was surprised to find this selection odds against. I'm going for Charlton and Stevenage, both teams to score, which comes in at 6-5. Now, Charlton have no doubt made a name for themselves as a team very resilient defensively under Nathan Jones. But they come up against a Stevenage side here who are way more than the sum of their parts at the moment. And I know you're a fan of Stevenage as well, Gab, and the job being done by Alex Ravel there as well. You can't help but be impressed by the way that they romped to victory against Exeter. That comes off the back of a really impressive away win at Wrexham as well. And I know they went 1-0 down 1-0 to your Birmingham City last time out, Gab. But I don't think any shame in that. The runaway leaders in League One. I just feel like Stevenage are giving as good as they got in every game at the moment. And while I can't see Charlton failing to score at the Valley, where they've just looked really, really good recently, I think they're coming up against an equally informed side here. I think both teams will fancy their chances coming into this one. And I think they're going to have a good ding-dong battle here. And I actually think that there will be maybe a little bit of more money that will push this more towards the coin toss, the 10-11 kind of area I was expecting to find this price. This is a little bit more of a gut play. I've got to be honest. I feel like Stevenage's mindset and confidence coming into this game probably gives them a better chance of getting on the score sheet than just the raw numbers would if you were doing your data and you were looking at the likelihood of this being a goal fest. Not necessarily is what I'm saying here, but a 1-1, a 2-1 either way is definitely kind of how I see this playing out at the moment. 2 teams confident, upwardly mobile in the division, coming to have a go at each other. And possibly their confidence will just carry them into quite a tight and entertaining contest. That's how I'm seeing it.
Yeah, I understand the rationale. I'm not sure I see both teams scoring in this one just because of the defensive strength of both sides, because Charlton Athletic have been very strong defensively at times this season. Alex Mitchell didn't start for them at Blackpool last time out, but he's one of the best centre-backs in the league for me. I think if he comes into the team, I think that's definitely going to improve Charlton defensively. And I think... and then, on the other hand, you've got Stevenage, who for me, Carl Pejani, I'm a massive fan of, because I think he's an absolute mentality monster. He's absolutely just so difficult to win a header against, because he's got an incredible spring on him, and so competitive, and one of the best sort of box defenders in League One. And Stevenage, of course, have been the clean sheet kings in League One this season as well. I'm pretty sure they've kept clean sheets in more than half their games. So yes, I can see the logic to it, because Charlton were involved in a high-scoring draw last time out. Stevenage beat Exeter 4-1. But generally, I would say these teams over the course of the season have probably shown more quality in their defensive resolve than
yes. Yeah, I wouldn't disagree with the line you just said there. I definitely see these two teams as teams that are, generally speaking, defence first. And I would totally take that on board. As I say, this is more about I'm kind of trying to look at where the mindset is in these two clubs coming into this particular fixture. I think you're right that it is clean sheets first for both of these teams where they can. But for a Charlton side who are scoring goals left, right, and centre at the moment, I'm struggling to see a world where Stevenage keep Charlton out away from home the way Charlton are playing.
To be fair, something has, like earlier in the season, Charlton were desperately short of creativity and goals. But to be fair to them, in the last couple of months, that has changed a bit, and they've dished out the odd drubbing. So maybe they're a bit of a different animal going forward. So I can see you thinking, especially off the back of Stevenage's form, where you got the likes of Jan Kemp and Jordan Roberts in form for them. So I see the thinking. But
just to add to it as well, 7 of the last 9 for Charlton, they've scored 2 or more, and I guess that is where I'm coming from, in that I don't see Stevenage keeping them out, but I do think Stevenage are playing well enough here to give a good account of themselves. They've got a good goal threat at the moment, scored in 5 of their last 6, and maybe the game state will just play out slightly differently here. That's the angle. I totally take on board your comments there. And the market agrees with you, Gab. I'll probably have egg on my face come 5 p.m. But we shall see. That's the fun of the game, isn't it? Now, for your final pick of the weekend, you're going back to home comforts, I'm tempted to say here. When in doubt, back Notts County. I know they've served you very well with this kind of bet previously. You had them up win to 0. I'm trying to think who that was against now. Quite a tasty price.
There was one at Accrington Stanley, but I had them to win to 0 against Bromley, and they were within 15 minutes of doing that.
That was it, yeah.
And Bromley equalised late on, Cameron Congreve. So I'm still sticking with Notts County, because I still see some value in them, and let me tell you why.
Well, they're playing Morecambe as well, for just to lead you in there. So one of the league strugglers.
Yeah, oh God, I love Notts County win to 0. I'm getting a bit predictable, aren't I? But I think Notts County have won 7 of the last 9. As I've mentioned on previous shows, they've been much, much stronger defensively this season. They've not missed Dan Crowley, the playmaker, as much as could have been expected. I saw the highlights there, 2-1 win at Gillingham last weekend, and I thought Charlie Whittaker, the January recruit from Everton, looks like a brilliant acquisition. He looks like somebody who can drop in and link play with midfield from that number 10 position, but also open games up with his agility and skill. So I think he looks like a really nice addition. But then also, on the other hand, you look at Morecambe. They've lost 9 of their last 12. If you look at the teams that they've actually been able to get results against this season, they've tended to be against the lesser sides. I think they've only ever won against bottom half opposition this season, and against top 7 opponents, I don't think they've scored yet, because they're short in front of goal. They have brought in Andrew Dallas, who grabbed a brace on his debut, the 4-2 victory over Fleetwood. So that will be their argument that maybe Dallas can provide that edge. But I think Notts County, with their defensive strength that we're seeing this season, I think they're going to have more than enough. So yeah, I'm backing them to win to 0, and 6-4 again. I really like that price.
Sorry, muted myself there. Yeah, I totally agree. Unfortunately, I'd love to pick holes in it, but you look at Notts County's record. They are imperious defensively, and it's landed in 3 of the last 5, and also could have easily landed in the other 2 as well. Like you say, a late 1-1 draw the last time that you put this particular bet up was quite unfortunate, I think. And they only conceded in the 80-something against Gillingham last weekend as well. Oh, that would have been a 2-0 win. So they are purring. I watched them up close against Carlisle quite recently, and even though Carlisle played quite well, it was a Notts County win to 0. So there you go. That's tried and tested. Gab sticking with what he knows, and I'm struggling to pick holes in it. One thing I would say in positive for Morecambe, they continue to be better than the sum of their parts, don't they? Derek Adams is getting a tune out of a squad that has no right to stay in League Two, really. And I'm forever in admiration of the work that he does at Morecambe, to be honest, in very difficult circumstances. My final bet is also in League Two, and I'm going to a team here, even though it's a player-based bet. I'm going to a team that have frustrated me this season. A team I was really, really keen on, MK Dons. I was so keen on them at the start of the season. Everything that could have gone wrong has gone wrong. Obviously, losing their manager in Mike Williamson midway through the season. They hired Scott Lindsay, and I really thought that was going to be when MK Dons kicked on to a new level. It hasn't quite worked out. I still don't think this season is a complete write-off for them. I think League Two is open enough for them to get rolling and still barge their way into those playoff places.
It's more likely to be playoffs than top 3 at this stage.
I think top 3 is hanging by a thread, admittedly, yes. It would have to click right now. And they do, on the face of it, have a good game to get it clicking right now, because they face Bromley here at home. This is a Bromley side who've been fantastic in League Two since they arrived, really. And they've been exactly what I thought they would be, really, to be honest. Really well drilled, really competitive. And hard to beat. But unfortunately, after what was a 9 or 10 game unbeaten run in all competitions, they're now 7 without a win in all competitions. And the wheels are just coming off a little bit for Bromley. I think they've done enough to not get sucked into a relegation battle, but you would be concerned with this run of form. And they were even more so that they were 3-0 up in midweek at Salford, finally looking like they were going to crack that run, only to blow the 3-goal lead and draw 3-3. So this is a Bromley side who are in a tough spot. MK Dons, of course, they lost last time out, but they lost to Doncaster, who are one of the better sides in the division. And I do think in this January, Scott Lindsay has been very proactive in recruiting players that he knows, players that he's worked with previously, to some degree of success. One of those is Dan Horsey, who was fantastic for Crawley last season in their promotion. Mainly playing in the non-league before that, to be honest. Done most of his stuff in the non-league, but that season in League Two, I think he scored 25 goals in League Two last season. He's been at Burton in League One this season. He's been on the fringes, I think it's fair to say. But in 21 starts, he's still managed 7 goals. His minutes have been very limited. And it just feels like a move perfect for club, perfect for player. I think he's reunited with Scott Lindsay, who he's had the best season of his career under. He's back in a division where he's proven. And I don't want to tempt fate, because, like I say, I've got MK Dons running on a few season bets to be promoted and stuff. I do feel like he could be the player that they may be missing. He's that forward that runs in behind. He's hardworking, creative, eye for goal. There's a lot to like about him. And like I say, his numbers actually, for the limited minutes he had, I think he's maybe just a victim of Burton changed the manager, and he just didn't quite fit in anymore.
He wasn't going to be somebody playing a Gary Bowyer team, was
exactly,
he? Really? So.
Exactly. But he's back with Lindsay. Lindsay knows what he could do. You see in Horsey's interview how delighted he is to be back with Lindsay as well. And for me, of everything we've seen of him in League Two, he's one of the best strikers in this division at the level. Now, anytime goal scorer bets for a team's main striker of a team that possesses a high goal threat, I would expect to see them priced around 6-4 to score any time. What we're actually getting about Dan Horsey this weekend is 12-5, which is quite a bit bigger than that. You know, that's closer to 5-2. And that's a huge difference in terms of percentage chance of scoring. Now, obviously, we don't know if he's going to come straight into the side, but I'm fairly confident Lindsay will be wanting to get him in straight away. Like we said, results have not been going well. He knows the player very well already. The player knows the manager and the style. There's no reason really that he should be getting eased in. Like I say, he's been coming off the bench for Burton. It's just his minutes have been limited. So as far as we could tell, he's fit, he's raring to go. Now, this is a kind of price where I think in 4 or 5 weeks, he's closer to that sort of 6-4 that I refer to. The kind of price that you'd maybe link with somebody like Jatta from Notts County. His team's main goal scoring threat, who'll maybe score 1 in 2, 1 in 3. This is more something akin to you'd expect from like a winger or a dangerous winger or something. So I just think this price is one that won't exist in a few weeks' time. And providing he starts, I'm going to be backing Dan Horsey anytime, as long as they keep this price up, to be honest, 12-5. I think it's value.
Yeah, what was I going to say? I think with MK Dons, just more generally, they've got on paper, they've got a top 3 squad. And I do see a world where everything clicks and they put together this brilliant winning run, similar to maybe something Doncaster put together in the second half of last season, because I do think they have it in them. However, I think what MK Dons have had in the last 3 years or so is that they've struggled to convert this kind of quote unquote on paper into on the pitch, and they seem to have had a bit of a mental block, if you like, in that time, and it's about sort of up to Scott Lindsay to change that trend, really. But I think I definitely think they've got a very strong midfield with the options that they've added. Like they've got Liam Kelly from Crawley, they've got Jay Williams also from Crawley, who should bring some of that ball winning nous. They've got Dan Crowley, who brings this brilliant creativity, and Tommy O'Reilly on loan from Aston Villa. So really strong set of midfield. Alex Gilby even as well, the stalwart. Brilliant set of midfield options. It's just about whether they can use Nimane and Joe Tomlinson to create for Danilo Horsey. But yeah, that bit of and he can run in behind, like you said, Matt. But also, I think he's pretty skillful in tight areas as well. So it can go both ways. So that really excites me with Danilo Horsey, and hopefully for MK Dons, he could be the game changer that they need to transform their fortunes, because they are, as much as I do see potential for them to put that run together and get into the top 7, they are cutting it a little bit fine.
I think if it's going to happen, it has to be now. And I'm just looking at their next sort of 7 or 8 fixtures here. Bromley at home.
Good run, actually, Matt, because they've got Bromley at home,
Barrow away,
Tranmere. I definitely think, I'm very confident that they'll beat Bromley and Tranmere.
I mean, that's 6 points minimum, isn't it? Possibly 9. And then things can look very different very quickly, can't they? But I agree with you. I think it's got to be now for MK Dons. That's why I don't think Lindsay will mess around getting Horsey into the starting lineup, a player he trusts and knows.
He won't horse around.
He won't be horsing around, though, exactly. Well, hopefully he will in terms of the goals. That's the plan anyway. But that rounds up our picks for this week. So just time to sum them up and pick our nap for the weekend. If I just take those banners away, as I seem to forget to do every week for regular viewers.
You had one job.
I know. Well, yeah, I wish, unfortunately. But no, Norwich to win in over 2.5 goals for Gab at 15-8. Shrewsbury and Gareth Ainsworth double chance at Rotherham 5-4. And Notts County, good old Notts County win 10-0. Never lets you down. Well, sometimes against Morecambe 6-4 chance. Gab, gun to the head. What is the nap for you, please?
Nap. What am I going to go with? I think I'm going to go with Notts County. I'm going to put my faith in them. I think 6-4 is a pretty good price. So I'm feeling pretty good about that.
I think you're a closet magpie, aren't you, Gab? I think we're. I think you've got a real soft spot for them, and with good reason as well. With good reason. I am going to just pull mine up then to finish Norwich and under 3.5 goals. Hopefully it'll be a 2-1 or a 3-0. As you said earlier in the piece, come on, Norwich, don't let us down. Charlton versus Stevenage, both teams to score. I wasn't entirely sold on that one. My nap would be this last one, providing he starts. And if he doesn't start, you will get your stake back. Remember as well, with first goal scorer bets and anytime goal scorer bets. So it's worth bearing in mind. Negates a little bit of the risk, I suppose. If he starts, I think he's going to be bang among it from the start. Danilo Horsey, reunited with Scott Lindsay, is 12-5 to score against a Bromley side in a really rotten rut of bad form. For any thoughts on them, Gab, before I take them off the screen? I know you're not massively keen on Charlton, Stevenage. The other two?
Danilo Horsey, yeah, I'm happy to back you on.
You're endorsing that. Good.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's the double then. Notts County and Danilo Horsey. All eyes on League Two this weekend. Good luck to your teams, and good luck if you're having a bet. Please do so responsibly if you are. Let us know what your naps and best bets are for the EFL this weekend in the comments. We'll be back again next Thursday to do it all over again. See you very soon. And thanks for watching here on Odds Now.